Good afternoon, everyone. We are back at it here on Long Island Talks, exclusively distributed on longisland.com. My next guest actually, I believe, saw our interview with Matty Boudreau out in Greenport. Hopefully you were inspired seeing what he's doing, Katie. Katie, you wrote us, and I had to have you on. Certain people are doing certain things during this, but this really hit home for me. I was very close to my grandfather. I have unfortunately, a person had just passed away in a nursing home. So it was my aunt, really hit home for me saying, this is maybe the part that we don't talk about, the loneliness factor of that. So I really want to welcome you and want to hear all about what you're doing at Gifts of Gab.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so sorry to hear about your aunt.
Thank you.
It does bring up a important point. So loneliness and social isolation. A lot of people don't understand that there is long-term health effects for people who are socially isolated. So you have your short-term negative health effects, depression, anxiety, but then there's also long-term effects that people don't really know about. So cognitive decline, heart disease, obesity, and sometimes even death. So it is definitely an important point to keep mindful of when you're thinking of our socialized, socially marginalized community, especially those senior citizens. So when this pandemic started, I thought to myself, I was like, okay, we're all being socially isolated, but what about those who are going to be socially isolated longer, our senior citizens? So that's when we came up with giftsofgap.org.
And so not only that, we as a younger generation, you're younger than me, but you know where I'm going here. We kind of gravitated to this thing. Come on, we've been on these phones for 10, 15 years now. So that was simple for us. The idea of this is these people need help to get this interaction, right? So I should mention you're a student at Stony Brook Social Welfare Program or school. I didn't even know either existed. This is awesome. Tell us
Yeah,
about
so I'm an MSW student at Stony Brook School of Social Welfare. I'm in my second year. And so I had actually learned about social isolation and the impacts from my professor last semester, 2 semesters ago, Dr. Morris. So that's how I started becoming aware of the issue. And that's when I heard about the social isolation, it came up. So that's why so it's a call-based companion coordination. So somebody who's feeling socially isolated could be a senior citizen, but it could be honestly anybody, especially right now during the crisis.
Sure.
Are alone. So although we are geared towards senior citizens because they're isolated, it could be anybody who can benefit from the service. Would call our Connect line. They would talk to myself or could be another coordinator. They would answer questions about their interests, their hobbies, their likes, and then I would connect them with a social work student, and then they would have weekly phone calls. So let's say at every Wednesday at 10 a.m., you get a call from the same person who knows your likes, knows your interests, and you just talk. It's just
That's really cool.
right.
Do you go back into, do you learn a little bit about their history so you go back into things that they used to love to do or see? And could that be a trigger in a different direction too? Could that be negative sometimes?
Yeah, so we definitely asked them about, so in the questionnaire, we asked them about interests and hobbies and places they've traveled, because those are good kind of talking points.
Hmm.
But we are mindful of if there is any emotions that come up. So a nursing home advisor had said something to me, and it really struck home. We're a fresh pair of ears. So especially for senior citizens, they want to tell their story. They want to talk about their memories in most cases, obviously. So we're just, as students, fresh pair of ears to listen to them, to talk to them, and to engage with them if something does come up. So we're a social support structure.
Hmm.
God forbid something does come up where they need, maybe more support, or they're showing, some signs of something that's out of our scope or realm of what we can help them with. We also have a list of referrals that we can send them to if they need support that's outside of our social.
Right.
So we're kind of light social interaction, but if they need something else, we have the capabilities to provide them referrals for other services as well. Because sometimes, with the internet, Googling, finding things, it could be a whole thing. So it can help.
By the same token, who right now is referring your services at this point? This is brand new, right?
Yeah, so we launched, so I started it March 16th, which happens to be my birthday,
Happy
because
birthday.
it came out, thank you. And so I started it and I created the whole thing, and then I needed to get school. I needed the school involved, Stony Brook. So I contacted my field advisor, Dr. Carolyn Peabody, who's an expert with activism and social community collection. So I told her about it. She's like, I'm on board. So then she came on board, and then we got the school involved. So I have about 10 student volunteers. So then ourselves, I create activities for them and outreach programs for them. So we reach out to nursing homes, retirement homes, senior citizens, community
Excellent.
centers, libraries, things like that. So we're doing outreach, and then Facebook, and then stuff like this.
Did you ever imagine you'd see something like this? Even some of us that have moms that are, in seemingly perfect mental health and otherwise, we're distant. We cannot be next to them. So think about it. They live alone. They look out the window. They get on the phone, and then 10, 12, 15, 24 hours passes by. So did you ever think you'd see something like this?
No, never. I mean, especially because we are, especially for my generation, we're so technologically
Mhm.
inclined. So even if you're not with somebody, you're FaceTiming somebody, like we're very connected and we have the social platforms. But for, a different generation that might not be so, using technology as much, it is important that as our generation to make sure that we are taking care of our older generation, just as they took care of us raising us, we have to be mindful and be taken care of. We're all a big community. So it's
Absolutely.
to make those phone calls and make sure that they're not feeling alone. And not everybody who's alone is lonely, and not everybody who's around company, feels like they're not lonely. So alone doesn't mean lonely in any case, but it's just important to be mindful of if you are feeling those effects, even if you're not a senior citizen, if you're feeling the effects of isolation, to reach out somehow. So we're just a support system that you can reach out to if you feel like you need it.
So you have a website, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's giftsofgab.org.
Yep. Giftsofgab.org.
And folks can put in for a referral to someone who may need the service, correct?
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Can you point to any, we'll get back to your point in a second. Can you point to
Sure.
any success cases or just examples of how this has been a positive effect already?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get a lot of, I get a lot of calls for referrals from people, just as you were saying. So I get a lot of people who call, like nurses who called saying things like, I am working 24 hours a day now. My mother is in, so and so. I can't get to her, I can't talk to her. If you can add, just as a way to add on to, them trying to call. So a lot of like health professionals that are on the front lines right now will make a quick call to us just so that they feel like their, parents or grandparents at least getting some type of social interaction in their absence, because they're obviously,
Mhm.
front line. So that's been really positive. And also just hearing the people, hearing their stories, talking to them. We're just a fresh pair of ears, and it's refreshing just to hear how excited they are and just to interact.
You think you'll ever upgrade the service and do some Marjan online or something
I
like
thought
that?
about that. So what's cool about this is, so it's an intern project because in response to the pandemic, but my goal, if possible, is to then take this and kind of package it and then give it down to each MSW students moving forward.
Yes.
Ongoing.
Yes.
Although it came in late because of the pandemic and we're only kind of set up for that time period, I would like to then set up and make sure it's something that continues, because it's not a social isolation, although exacerbated right now, is not something that's going to go away. And so unfortunately, it's still something.
No, it's not. And we could argue, and this would be a whole other show for us. It would be
Yeah, yeah.
some of the social media has actually brought us into a different type of isolation.
Yes.
I'll leave that in its
Mhm.
corner. You
Yeah.
know where I'm
Mhm.
going
But
there.
I hear you.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely. Anything else you wanted anybody to know about this? I think this is really wonderful. I can really think of a lot of examples of people that need this right now. So I want people to really know about this.
Thank you. Yes, so if you need any social interaction, or if you know anybody who needs any social interaction, again, you could go to the website, gifts with an S of gab.org, and you can call the Connect line. I actually wrote it down, so
Good.
it's 631-346-6052. And that will lead, it's our Connect line. It will lead you right to myself or a companion coordinator, and we'll get you set up immediately. And even, if you just want more information about it, you can call me and I'll tell you all about it. And we'll get you all set up as soon as possible.
Really awesome. So
So
we've been speaking to Katie Moraldi, who's a student at Stony Brook, and I will say it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. And let's catch up with each other in a couple of weeks, and let's see how we're doing with this. I know it's changing every day, some for the better, some not so good, and so we'll reconnect. So we totally appreciate you talking to us today.
wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you're welcome. You have a good day.